Luca Nation, episode 673 of Lucas Tigers and Bronze. Are you good, Cage?
I'm tired today, man. I'm tired. Just did a Whatnot show, buddy. If you want to go out, I'll watch you. Go ahead and shoot some hoops.
It's because you pour into our community, man. Not just with giveaways, but with good vibes, with compliments, with jokes, with banter. And it takes a lot out of you. I don't know how you do it, man. I couldn't do it.
I gave away 18 combined PSA and SGC slabs in an hour. Gave away free, not for sale. Gave away. Here you go. You get a slab. You get a slab. It's like the Oprah of slabs here. Not to mention, we're breaking boxes cheaper than anybody breaks, and we're losing money because that's how we rock. But somehow I find, not every box, but we find good boxes. That's my favorite thing, by the way. It's the thing about breaking, that's tough. It's like, oh, well, I broke a box and it was crap in it. What can I do? I'm not Panini, I just feel bad if people aren't. But that OTE, we've now done that 2 boxes in a row, Topps Chrome OTE with fire boxes. We got 5 people bought into that break. There were 2 golds out of 50. 2 golds out of 50. And the 2 autos were both of the Thompson twins, who were both projected to go top 6 in the NBA draft. The one person who bought in that didn't get anything great, I gave an extra slab.
This year or next?
This coming year, I think. This coming year to the Kings. This year. I mean, pretty nuts.
That might be a death sentence.
I know. Well, who knows? But and the point is, that was a nice box. Everybody who bought in at a reasonable price, cheaper than what I paid for the box, they all did great. This was a box I should have opened myself, which I don't say that often. But yeah, it's fun, and the community's there. I got 2 comments in the chat that I really liked a lot. One was a kid who had never won anything before, had never bought anything before, and he just kept missing out. And at the end of the show, we asked, who his favorite guy is, and he said RJ Barrett. So I ran down to the basement of Magic, and I found a 13 RJ Barrett card lot, and the chat let him win it for less than $1 a card, and he's got to win. So that was fun. And 2 was a guy who says he's only been collecting for 2 weeks. He's been on Whatnot for a couple of days. Glad he found us because we're now his new favorite show, and he'll be on anytime. He's got a notifications on anytime.
He's found us. This is how you're supposed to invest. Buy at the bottom. Buy low, sell high.
Yeah. And, you come in, you get to hear me make some jokes, have some fun and give away cards. So I think he found his go-to show on Whatnot. So, guys, if you haven't already, come join us. We do it random times. This week was a Tuesday.
Yeah.
We usually do it on weekends. During football season, we're regular. We're like clockwork. Sunday morning show. We talk about the games. We sell some cards. But during the football off season, we're just, if I get in some boxes, I happen to get this box of Phoenix today, and I sold that at a nice loss. But if I get a box in, it's like, hey, let's go live, and I'll give you some free.
Best way is just to follow us on Whatnot and hit the bell to get a notification, because when we go live, you'll get it. And it's fun. It really is fun. I'm excited to be back to I think the consistency is what would get us, into the hundreds of viewers versus randomly.
Yep.
I have 4 different topics. I feel like it's going to be kind of a riff type of episode. So one thing I just said to our show group is what I'm watching. This isn't definitive. If this year's Grizzlies are last year's Hawks, right? Last year's Hawks team made a huge run. Got to the Eastern Conference playoffs. It was like Trey turned a corner. And then what was it? The first week of the season, Trey said regular season games are boring. So we have that. And by the way, Ja's out for the remainder of the playoffs.
He kind of did, right? He kind of did say that.
No,
and
he quote unquote.
And they made a run towards the end. But yeah, the Hawks were the first half, disappointment. The Hawks were everyone's like, wow, we were expecting them to take a step, and they didn't take a step. So that's a good thought. It's a good comp.
I've lived a little bit, and I'm hyper aware. I like to watch, and we always think of winning. Winning is getting a championship, but that's just not the reality. Mm-hmm. Teams go into the season, not everyone's trying to win a championship. Some teams are trying to make the playoffs. Some teams are trying to get 30 wins. Everyone is in their own stage of development. You also know, you've worked in corporate America. Those people who, they come in as an analyst, they come in first year out of college, they bust their ass, they're waiting to get that big promotion. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they hit the promotion, what happens? Their level drops.
You mean their work ethic, right? So It's like, okay, I was striving for this, I hit my goal, and now I got to pause.
And that happens, you guys, that happens so often. It's happened with me as an athlete. Every time, what makes Brady and Jordan so incredible is every new level they hit, it seems like they've gotten hungrier. Whereas most people, every new level you hit, it's actually kind of demotivating. And that's what I want to see. The Grizz, you can't sugarcoat it. They hit a new level this year. Second in the West, played extremely well. A lot of big wins. Job, turned a corner. How motivated will they be in the offseason? Are they going to grind, practice, come together, and really make a run? Or do they take a step back? And I don't know, but that's just something to watch for next year.
I think it's a great topic. I'll give my 2 cents on it really, really quick. I put a little more faith in the Grizzlies team than I do in the Hawks team. Right? It was the Hawks were a 5 seed, I think.
Yes.
And they were, they weren't even supposed to have home court advantage. Right? They got through the Knicks, and they kind of were like a surprise to get there. The Grizz was
they met the Knicks in
the first round, 4-5. Yep. Right, but they made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, which was a surprise. Right, they didn't have home court advantage for any of it. Right, the Grizz, they're the 2. You know what I mean? So it's a little different. I mean, that was a shock that they got the 2, but it's a little different because, like, with the Hawks at a 5, I would have been okay if they would have moved up to a home court advantage, regular season. And if they didn't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, okay, they're still in the progression. Why I think the Grizz might be in a tougher spot, because to improve from here, let's say they get knocked out by the Warriors, who are right now the odds-on champ. The odds-on to win the championship as of this morning in Vegas. Okay.
Wow.
100%. People didn't like Giannis last night, I guess. But so here's the deal, right? So if they get knocked out, to improve, they got to get to the Western Conference Finals, right? They have to stay in the top half of a crowded West that is, we talked about at the beginning of the year, is so packed, right? You got to think the Clippers will figure out something. They'll be back with Kawhi and Paul George healthy, hopefully, and their young core, right? You got to think that the Suns will still be great. You got to think maybe the press will finally, weigh on the Nuggets owners to say that you got the 2-time returning MVP here. You got to get him some help, and that team will get healthy, right? You got the Warriors are going to come back with their core and maybe add Wiseman to the mix if he's ever going to play. Right, so this was a year for the Grizz to show up, right, and play, because a lot of the Lakers, who everyone thought were going to be in the finals, weren't even in the playoffs, right? So it's going to be tough for them to repeat right off the bat. You have all these other things, even if they're just as good. But I put them in a different class than the Hawks. The Hawks were Trey, and Trey is one-dimensional, easily stopped, and no one on his team stepped up. When Ja was out, this team plays well. So I should have messaged the group, but I watched SportsCenter yesterday. I watched, they do at the end, like a 4:00 show, they do like a betting thing. And they said, bet the under in the Grizz game. It was like 220 something or something like that, right? So bet the under in the Grizz game, because the over has just kept coming in. The over is like 2/3 of the time the over in the playoffs. But in games where Ja didn't play this year, the rest of the team steps up. They clamp down on the shooters. They're not focused on him. They play more of a team game on both offense and defense. They pass the ball around. They slow the pace down. They're not running crazily at the basket. And their team defense is actually better, and they let up less points. And they did. Now, I'm sure part of that was Golden State not shooting well. You know what I mean? Missing their first 15 3-point attempts. But maybe some of that's defense. And they kept it close. They come close till the very end when Golden State, had a 39-29 fourth quarter. Golden State was, that was like championship hour right there for them,
So what does that mean? You're absolutely right. First, the West broke for the Grizz this year.
Broke perfectly.
Lakers were weak. Clippers without Kawhi. Warriors were injured at different times.
Nuggets. Right,
yeah.
Nuggets.
There's 4 teams that really weren't at full strength all year.
Yeah.
That's going to be a difference. So what does that mean? And like you said, the team plays better without Ja. There's no way to, especially on defense, because the other team targets Ja. What does that mean? Here, Ja's cards have already run up.
Yep.
You've already talked about how I don't hate Ja, but when you see things run up so much, what's your prognosis? What's your projection? What would you be doing, I guess, if you're a Ja holder? And what do you see for the Grizz for next season? You think they're a 4, 5, 6, 8 seed?
I do. I think they're the 4 to the 8. I do. And I think there's a lot of reasons, right? And I think they can improve. I love Desmond Bane. I don't love Jaren Jackson. I know you are a fan. He's a 7-footer who can shoot the 3, but he needs to work on where his body starts and stops. This way he doesn't have stupid fouls.
He's
You can only be as good as 7-foot 3-point shooter if you're on the court. And you can only stay on the court if you don't foul out. And the dude is, as you say, a foul machine. He needs to figure out, what he can and can't do on the court to stay on it and help his team. I think Dylan Brooks, they should lose. That's addition by subtraction. If they could find somebody to take him or just leave him when they lose to Golden State on Wednesday and get eliminated, they should just leave him. Just leave Brooks and don't even look back. Right? Because they've been better with slow-mo. They've been better with, Jones. They've been better with the other guys. And I know Brooks, he's supposed to be good, but they've just been better without him. I like Brandon Clark.
But it's tough, Cage.
Right? I just gave away 6 of his cards on whatnot.
Good is the enemy of great, right?
But
you're not going
to
win
thing,
with
right?
guys.
You're right. You're not going to win with that, right? But you got to expect Morant to take a step forward and become the superstar, and you got to expect maybe him to work on his game. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think what you're seeing with Ja is what you're going to get from Ja: flashes of greatness, athleticism, and injuries. And I've been saying it for a while. I love Ja. I think Ja is great. I was on the Ja bandwagon to start the season and jumped off it when his prices all went to the moon. Talking to the moon. So now they're in the moon. There's only one way for them to go, and it's down. Because people are pricing in a Ja MVP, Ja championship. I don't think he's going to stay healthy enough to win the MVP next year. And I don't think he's going to spend the offseason, now that he's injured, he's going to spend it, rehabbing and partying and working on his, his gritty. And he's not going to work on his jump shot, which I will jump back on the Ja bandwagon, even at prices close to where they are now, because they're going to come down in the offseason. They just are, unless they somehow get through this series and he comes back and plays and wins a championship. That's already kind of cooked in here to his price. The price is going to come down. If I see in the offseason videos, because everything's content now, everything's out there. Zion dunks the ball, it's out there, 500 different channels. If I see Ja working on mid-range, right? If I hear that he is, he's practicing an elbow jumper, you know what I mean? That he's working on pull-ups where he gets to the lane and stops, you know what I mean? And actually, maybe a teardrop, he's working on a runner. He's working on like a mid-range kind of game. Who do they call mid-range? Who's the mid-range guy? I mean, like a Jimmy Butler type. CP3. Well, CP3's got a great game, but a different kind of game. No, there's somebody. DeMar DeRozan. If I hear that Ja picked up the phone and called DeMar DeRozan's coach, you know what I mean? Whoever you always talk about Grover Cleveland, right? Like the basketball coaches, Tim Grover. That was a joke, Grover Cleveland joke. I was using Tim Grover. I was making a joke.
Grover is a Barstool. He has a Barstool podcast now.
No, but I'll go listen to it. That and the JJ Redick podcast. I will. I promise. But I won't. But if I hear that he's doing that, he's working on the jump shots and he's training with whoever it is who works with DeMar DeRozan on the mid-range stuff, he becomes a complete player. I'll buy back in because I know then that this guy's got the work ethic. He's doing what he needs to do to take that step forward. But the problem in the West, it's sort of like the AFC in football. Everyone's there, right? He's got to get past Kawhi. He's got to get past Luka, right? He's got to get past LeBron. He's got to get past CP3 and Booker and the Suns. He's got to get past the MVP, Joker. He's got to get past the Minnesota team that he just barely got past. That's probably going to get better next year with an improving Anthony Edwards. I mean, the West is stacked, man. So it's tough. It's tough to navigate that. And, they may have been looking at one of their best opportunities here. So we'll see, man. We shall see.
What I was looking up, and we'll go to the next topic, is I was listening. I think the JJ Redick podcast is a must if you're investing in cards. I mean, he brings you like it's a
Redick's on ESPN. I see him, and I don't listen to his podcast, but I see him. He does a very good job breaking down the players, breaking down the numbers.
He really does.
Very good job.
And in a longer form, it's even better. So one episode I recommend you guys listen to is him and Draymond. But then Draymond interviewed Curry, and he talked about how. Remember, you talked about this. Curry had ankle issues early in his career.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And shoulder.
and all this stuff. So he got drafted.
The ankles were big, right?
Yeah.
Ankles were big.
So up until 2012, 2013, he was making $3 million a year. But this is Curry now, right? The best player, one of the best players in the league. Now he's making, let me see, what was it? $43 million a year. Crazy how much these guys make. But for 3-4 years in between that, he signed a $10 million a year contract. Just a terrible contract for a superstar, right?
Yeah.
And it allowed them to go get Durant. It allowed them to keep Livingston, keep Iguodala, keep all these veterans to really build that championship team that made the run. So Draymond talks about how that one contract, that's not a superstar contract, allowed them to bring in an incredible amount of talent, followed by being able to sign Mr. Durantula to really make a run. So I'm also curious about that because honestly, the Grizz don't have to do much. If they sign two incredible veterans, right?
Yep.
Maybe they make a run that way. And I think your prediction of the Warriors sweeping the Grizz, though the series score is going to look really different, you can tell there's a disparity in class. Maybe not a disparity in talent, but a disparity in class. Let's talk about charts, Cage, because I've been having some fun. I've been pulling up charts like we talked about Shopify, Netflix, talked about crypto, right?
Netflix.
Bitcoin, Ethereum.
Dude, have you seen the Netflix chart? Netflix. I remember buying Netflix at $92 per share and selling it after earnings at like 110, and it went up over $500. It's back down to like 150, 140 something now. It's almost back in full to where it was 5 years ago. It's insane.
It's
177.
It is insane.
Look at that drop. Oh my god.
And I guess what I'm trying to show, I mean, you could tell me I'll pull up anything you kind of say, but like cross asset class, if you just like today I was going outside and one of the guys was washing his Porsche and I was like, hey,
nice. Bro, name
it, that car's gone up in value. He's like, yeah, it's crazy. The guy that the dealership just called me. He said, check the MSRP, the Kelley Blue Book. That car's $20,000, $30,000 more. So my point in that, we're living through a really interesting age where it doesn't matter if you're invested in cards, crypto. You could have just closed your eyes and thrown a dart at something. It's all basically gone up since 2020, and even more so since 2018. And now we see a bit of a correction across markets. You've lived through it. I don't know if there's, a question here. Are you seeing the same thing?
Of course. And, look, it's a preparation thing. It's a luck thing. It's a whole bunch of things, right? We've seen how many times on this podcast have we talked about rotating from one asset class to the next, right? And if people do that, right, it's almost an unsustainable thing, right? We talked about it, right? You buy the cards ran up. People who left cards, they went to Top Shot. The Top Shot ran up, came down. People left Top Shot, they went to Bored Apes. They went to NFTs. The NFTs ran up, they're coming down. They're crypto. You're right to look at the charts on these things because they all have almost the same chart.
Almost
they all
the same
have one of these like this. Everything's kind of like boop, 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 and then you go boo, and then down. But it's almost like I'm trying to come up with like the best way to do it. If you had a wart on your finger, right? Your finger is like this. You got a wart right here, right? That's what the charts look like. But if you took a knife, you froze it, you chop that wart off, the chart looks fine, right? The problem is that you have that run up and the run back down. And that run back down causes insanity. It causes fear. It causes craziness. It causes hysteria in the markets. Exactly. And nobody looks like this. They just look at oh my God, look how much we've gone down. You look at that Netflix chart, right? Just put your hand on top of that blip up and you're just going to see a chart that goes like this.
So that's exactly where I wanted to go. And I think this provides opportunity. I talk a lot about scouting, right? I like to, find this guy, and because of X, Y, and Z, I think he's going to be more prosperous than this guy who's missing X, right? I scouting. I think it's also an opportunity in this fear panic to, if you're really good, to spot, because in a panic, everything comes down, right? And to the naked eye, to the unobserved eye, you think this all is going to shit. But actually, in reality, the good stuff is being caught up in the BS, and it's an opportunity for you to buy things that you truly have conviction in at a discount. Did I explain that the right way?
100%. Yeah.
Like, I'll give you an example with the NFT craze. With NFTs, there's people who've been waiting for this moment to post, repost, share, give their 2 cents on how I told you so NFTs are junk, right?
Of course. And crypto and all the other stuff.
And crypto and all. And they're lumping it all together. They're using this like recent sell-off to be like, haha, told you so. But the reality is they're right, but only partially, right? Because yeah, NFTs across the board, they're all fluffy. They were all overpriced. And we don't really know what their true value is because they've only been around for a short period of time. But CryptoPunks, for example, because that's the one I believe, and I brought that up, is sort of, and you might have a different one, but I'm going to use this one, is sort of the artwork of the crypto world. This was 2017 created. It's OG. It shouldn't be lumped into all of like the projects that have been created in the last year out of nothing. Now they're also getting killed. But in reality, they're more of like a vintage Mickey Mantle card in that space than they are a base Zion Williamson, but the markets are treating them as exactly the same.
So a couple things. Number one, there's 10,000 of them, although a lot of them are locked away in wallets that will never be obtained again. They were free. There's definitely a supply of them out there. But here's where I will go with this. Yesterday, some cheap CryptoPunks sold for just over $100,000 because not only did the price go down, but the price of Ethereum went down, right? I don't know what they're at right now, but let's call it 55 to 60 Ethereum, right, for the floor, right? And Ethereum is what, 2 and change, right? So you're talking about what's a floor CryptoPunk right now? $115,000, $125,000, something like that? Okay. I want to take you back. We'll get in our time machine. We'll get in our DeLorean, Marty. I want to take you back to the National, right? We were at the National last year, right? It was last year in Chicago.
Less than a year ago.
Less than a year ago. So this is July, end of July, right? So what is that, 10 months, right? 10 months ago. 10 months ago, if you were to pull up even the CryptoPunk chart, 10 months ago, all right, I remember that CryptoPunks were approximately 17 to 20 ETH floor, and you could buy them going into the National for $35,000 to $40,000 of actual money, right? $35,000, $40,000, however you want to slice it, cash, whatever it is. That's how much they were, right? And by the end of National, they were like 70,000, and they had their run. Now they ran up to what? $400,000, $500,000. Now, if you look at them and say, "Oh, they've been lumped in. This is crazy. This is ridiculous. How can they be? It's art. It's 2017." And you say these things were $400,000, $500,000, and they're down to 125 now. Wow, it sounds like they've crashed. It sounds like they're horrible, right? How could they be? How could this thing be down so much? But I look at it and say, a 1-year chart, they're up. Like these were $30,000, $40,000 in July of last year, and they're still $125,000 now. That's a 4x on your money. Sure, if you bought in at $400,000 or $500,000, you'd be in trouble. But I'm telling you, because I remember what they cost. I remember being at a trade night with someone who owned 3, and he was mad because he had ones on the floor that got bought. He's like, I don't know what's going on with these things. They just flew. I didn't have enough time to take it off the floor, and somebody scooped it up, and the price went like that. So yeah, man. I mean, listen, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting chart. And if you were to, there's fun charts. You want some free ones? You know what I mean? Go ahead and look what PWCC has. And they'll give you the 2008 index. They have the PWCC 100, the 500, the 2500. You can pull up whatever chart you want. The 2500 is cool because it's a lot of cards. And it'll compare it. It compares it right there for you between the S&P 500 and the PWCC 2500. Nice and easy, nice comparable. Cards, the right cards win. Now, if you compare, modern PSA 9s, ultra modern, to the S&P or to anything else, you're probably not doing so well, right? If you're over leveraged in that, right? But I guess what you're trying to say is we've done this 4 or 5 episodes that we dedicated directly to it, that flight to quality, those blue chips. But in order to be a blue chip, what makes the PWCC chart awesome is, when they started? 2008.
Wow.
And what the assets are included in that PWCC index are? They're assets as old as 1888 and nothing newer than 1999. That's how you have an asset that has a chart that shows some, legitimate pricing.
A few cycles.
Even
the LeBron Exquisite's not in that then.
Nope. Their index up to 1888 to 1999. So the LeBron Exquisite has run like crazy. I wouldn't be surprised to see that come down. Right, and we have seen it come down. You said that's $1 million card. You've said it on a couple of shows. It's never going to come below $1 million. And it has.
Where is it at now?
It's the last one was a BGS 8, and it sold for like 8 and change, I think. I mean, it's still damn close, right? But it was, not a great swatch. Same thing with the Brady, right? That Brady Contenders. That was a $2.5 million.
My intuition, my gut says cross market. Just there's still more blood. I think the first thing I heard from you is don't be over leveraged in a time like this, right?
Of course.
When you're buying speculative assets on margin, it's never comfortable, right? It's
True.
Never comfortable. One, don't be. Two, I think it's more of a time to be a sniper, right?
Yes. Look at the PWCC weekly auction and find those Jordan PSA 10s that are out there that you didn't know about or that you couldn't buy before, and you'd be able to get them for 10 or 20 or 30% cheaper than you were able to get them. Get into the Heritage auction and grab that card that you wanted, that Kevin Durant or that vintage card or whatever it might be that you can get at a bargain now, because not that people are losing money, but maybe people are being a little cautious, and you have one less person to bid against in those auctions. Right. The sniping is key. But can I take it a different way? Because I talked to one of our listeners. They picked up some cards, some SGC and some PSA from our recent group sub returns, right?
We can talk about that.
And you can tell he didn't want to say it, but I said it and he agreed. Not having fun the way that he had previously, right? Not having fun. And also doesn't know exactly what to do with the cards. Like, hey, I got a bunch of cards. What do I do with these now? I just got back a bunch of, Herberts. I got back some Burrows. I got back some Darius Garland. Like PSA 10s, nice cards. Like the Optic Hollow Burrow. And what I said was, you got 6 Burrow PSA 10s. You like Burrow? Do you think Burrow's going to be great? Yeah. What's your level of confidence in Burrow? That's like a 6 of 10. Sell half of them. Sell 3 and keep 3. Get some money now. You have cash on the side, and put it into someone who your confidence is 8 out of 10 on, right? You're a hockey guy. Maybe
it's hard to have confidence that it's 8 out of 10 in a market like this, Cage.
I agree, which is why you have to take some money off the table. This is what we were talking about.
I think,
and more importantly,
I probably have most confidence in cash right now.
But here's the other thing, and this is where you combine your snipe, right? This is someone who knows hockey really well, right? Knows who the rookies are, knows who are, going to be the guys next year in hockey, because watching the playoffs, watching every game, he can take that Burrow money and buy cheap hockey rookies that people are now getting rid of to build up a cash position. And he can hold those because he enjoys hockey, he's a hockey fan, and those will be the ones that he'll speculate on. Do not spend all your cash. You keep some Herberts, you keep some Burrows, you take your money, you turn it into something that something you have fun with, right? Something you enjoy. That's the way I would go with it, right? That's the way. And it's sad because I know this is not the only person thinking this way. I know a lot of people are in the same spot. They came in the last couple of years, and they were all about to buy a nice-looking raw card and grade it, all right? And keep some for your collection to build up a nice collection, and sell some, make some money, buy some more raw, grade, the whole 9 yards, right? So, but it's not as much fun. It's not as much fun because these cards are coming back. You're like, well, do I lose money on this PSA 9? And you know what I said? Yes. Take whatever you can. hit the reset
It's not
button.
even that you just lose money; you lose time with it too, which
Yeah.
is frustrating.
Yeah, but I'd rather lose the money and the time and get some money back and start it over. Because maybe you're starting over now at somebody else's bargain price. And maybe you're going to get a 10 now. Maybe you're going to buy raw. Maybe you're going to put your money into something that's more fun.
You know what's funny about these grading companies? And we're sponsored by one, but they're included. They're all included in this. They are cutting out the legs of the people that built the table for them.
I said it. You have to know. I said it in my lunatic rants. I've said it all the time where I talk about the pyramids of the hobby, and you got the collectors looking down on us. And
like the Pharaoh.
You know what I would love? I would really love for, I don't want it to be permanent, but I would love for the next 6 months, everybody who came into the hobby in the last 2 years to leave. Everyone to leave the hobby. Seriously. And we talk about the pyramid of the hobby, like the food pyramid, that entire bottom out, gone. No money coming in. These are people who are buying into breaks. They're not buying breaks anymore. These are people who are grading cards and trying to turn their $100 cards into $1,000 cards so that they could get a kaboom. They're gone.
What you're saying is vote with your dollars, kind of.
You say it all the time. And you know what happens then? The breakers can't charge what they were charging for the breaks. And the guys who are sitting there at the top of the pyramid with their $1 million LeBron, maybe the LeBron's only worth $800,000. Maybe it's worth $600,000.
Maybe it's worth $50,000.
Maybe it's worth nothing. Who knows what it's worth? Maybe those things come back, and maybe now we're wondering: are you really a collector? Are you really as happy now with your collection as when you were able to lay it out on a pizza box and it was worth a couple million when it's only worth a couple $100,000? Do you really want those people gone? Do you really want what it is you seem to be asking for?
This is how I saw the chain, right? Like when PSA had $8, $15 grading, when SGC had $8, $15 grading, BGS $8, $15, $20 grading. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they knew they could. They basically inelastic demand. They could raise the prices to basically whatever they want.
Yep.
But that $8 to $50, that $32 arbitrage, that $35 arbitrage, right? That break even if you get a PSA 8. You make 15 if you get a PSA 9, and you make maybe 50, 60 if you get a PSA 10. I know you could raise the prices, but let's hypothetically say you don't. Now those people that send in those cards, they're profiting. And what do they do with those profits? They go and they might buy a really nice LeBron Topps Chrome Refractor. They flipped, 200-300 cards. I kind of want to add this to my collection. It's my dream card. I really have always wanted this. They add it to their portfolio and they go back. They're like, I like doing. And now, yeah, PSA, BGS, SGC, you guys made a little bit less money, but you kept this. It's infinite game versus finite game, right? It's how do I make the most amount of money in 2 years versus, wait, if I just keep this game going, I'll make infinite money over 100 years. And I will be the player. Not just in 2020 when COVID happened, everyone's home gambling and the government's sending everyone $1,200. I'm going to be a player in 2050 and 2075.
Listen, I'd like to say what you're talking about is hypothetical, but it is me. I mean, when I came back into the hobby, and started doing the stuff full time, there's a reason why I own the cards that I own now. And it's not because I came in with $1 million and bought $1 million worth of cards. It's because I was able to lever in some money, buy some cards, grade some cards, and sell for a profit and put that right back in. It was the ability to churn and continue to do this stuff. I was buying, Klay Thompson base for $5 and grading them for $13. That's how I was able to sell a bunch of them to Gary Vee for $75, $85 each. PSA 10s. You know what I mean? And then buy Lukas for $15 and grade them and sell them for $65, $70. Buy these rookies, buy all these things, right? And, the funny thing is, I complain, I shouldn't have sold out Luka, but I probably sold out Luka to somebody else who came in a month or 2 or 3 after me, and he bought it for $65 or $70, held it for a month, and sold it for $200 or $300. And this person was able to make money also, and we were able to all build up our stacks, build up the cards that you were able to kind of trade and buy into, and go from $5 or $10 cards to $25, $50, you name it. But I think, part of the thing that I miss with that is why it worked was because there is a cycle just like Top Shot. It's a great example of it. If you get into that cycle early enough, this is why the collectors and the Bored Apes and the CryptoPunk holders and the people who were early in Top Shot and the people who happen to own Tom Brady because they live in Boston when he was playing should take a deep breath and be thankful for being lucky. One of your 4 types of luck, sure, but being lucky because they were early, right? And I don't know whether or not right now lowering the price of grading would cause the same thing, right? Because I think we've seen the cycle. The cycle was you and I were early enough. We were grading Zion cards early. We were grading Mbappe early, and people came in and bought them at a higher price. But in order for that to keep coming, more and more people have to come in and keep buying them at a higher price. And right now, not only is that not happening, but we're chasing people away. People are going bye-bye. So it's interesting. The whole thing's very interesting.
Maybe this isn't a direct anecdote, but it kind of reminds me of this. So, and a lot of people think Amazon killed malls, but what I believe, and I grew up in retail, it was rising rents that killed malls, right? Because for a long time, kids, remember before the iPhone, you would just hit up your friends, be like, "Yo, I'm gonna meet you at the mall at 4," right?
Yep.
And you'd be like, be there by the water fountain. And you go there, you go shop, you go see some girls from high school. You might go to arcade, right? There was a whole to do. And that was like its whole self-sustaining ecosystem, right? That the customers would come, they'd have an experience, they'd spend money on stores, get money, they'd spend it on Ann's, they'd have a date, there was a vibe.
Yep.
And everyone was kind of complimented. It was a symbiotic environment. But these malls started saying, they're like, look at how popular we are. Why don't we start raising rates on these stores? Well, then what did the stores do? They try to survive. They went out of business. Now, maybe first the toy stores or the experience stores go out of business, and now it's just retail. Well, no one just wants to go to the mall for Sears. If I'm just going to go to the mall for Sears, I'm just going to buy it off the internet. There's no experience. Then now you buy on Amazon. Now Sears goes out of business. And now no one wants to go to a mall. And if we try to follow that chain of events, it's all from the greed of the people who they can do it. They own everything. They raise, but it's you bite the hand that's feeding you. They don't realize what's keeping them afloat. And it's this fascinating chain that if you stay in business long enough, why we say we're all in it together, why we're all trying to grow the pie. It's because we've seen it in other industries too.
100%. Well, listen, I just gave away a whole bunch of cards. There was a PSA Authentic in there, not Authentic Altered, Authentic. It was a 2019 Prism basketball card. So I don't know what the hell happened there. I pulled it out of a pack, graded it, and got it back Authentic. There were a bunch of 5s. I got an SGC 7 on a modern card that I also pulled out of a pack and put right in a sleeve and graded. By the way, that's another thing, because a card is a card, a grade is a grade. No grading company will ever tell you that the grading standards have changed over time. And every time we yell about this, we shout about this, we talk about it. Every time we do that, we kind of get told we're idiots and there's no such thing as pop control and the whole deal. But now the pendulum swung to the other side. I mean, there are more 5s coming back in grades, 6s, 8s. And I don't get it. Honestly, I don't get it. And look, we used to talk about grading companies a lot more often. And yes, we're sponsored by SGC, but
we're sponsored by our customers and our listeners.
Why would a grading company be extra hard on grades? Why? Is it because they think that that's the way to have credibility? Are they afraid of
There's too many slabs in the marketplace?
Right?
They want to preserve value.
Yeah, so they want to preserve value. Is that what it is? They want to preserve value.
Well, only tens are the only thing that ever held value. So they want to preserve their main asset.
Is it when there are public stories about trimming getting through cards that all of a sudden the people Willy Wonka walks the chocolate factory floor and says to people, "Tighten the screws, folks. Look at that trimming. We don't want to be giving out a 10 on a card that looks like a 6. So we don't want to be on the cover of that page. We don't want to be on Instagram. So you know what? If you got a card that could be a 9 or an 8, make it an 8."
I think what they say is no more borderline 10s. If it's a 10, it's a 10. Because they're these companies, their number one asset is their best grade, not grade forget vintage for a second, not 1 through 9. It's 10. It's 10, and with black label, gold label with the other companies. That's the main asset, and they have to protect it. That's my opinion.
All right. Well,
you said it before. PSA, people chase the 10.
They can protect their asset all they like. People just won't grade with them. If you grade cards, if you send $1,000 worth of cards off for grading, which is not getting you as many as it used to, right? And you get back 10% 10s.
So think about that. That's squeezed from both sides, right? They've raised prices.
You're now paying more.
You're paying
and
more.
You're getting less. And the secondary on anything other than a 10 is crap. You might as well have just sold it raw. You're already out because you're out the money because of what you paid for grading. Doesn't matter what the company is.
And then watch this. Let's say you jackpot, right? Gage, you hit the lotto ticket. Perfect card. You got the perfect grade. Upcharge. Give me my money. You can't make it up. Like it's interesting. But let's go positive.
And yet they must have been getting so many at PSA that they no longer are doing the Tuesday, Thursday events. Now, if you're a Collectors Club member, you can submit as many cards as you want at the economy level, which is
I love that they called it
$50 a card. $50 a card economy. But keep in mind, guys,
economy.
The complete through date is still March 14th. And that, by the way, March 14th for bulk submitters. That's what they've completed through. And what that means is that that's when they logged it in. Right? I'll have you know, the oldest sub that we mailed out in December and was logged in. You want to take a guess? Their complete through is March 14th. You want to take a guess what day our sub was logged in?
March 13th.
March 15th.
That's hilarious. That's really funny.
March 15th, our thing is logged in.
So I always like I like observing people. I like watching people. I grew up in the cafes. I was always wanted to watch like what makes people happy, or what makes couples happy. Right. And I'll tell you what I observed today on your Whatnot stream is one guy who's always happy with the hobby. We're talking about the hobby. That's basketball guard guy.
Yeah,
and he doesn't grade cards.
He never grades anything. But,
right.
And he got 2 golds. He bought 2 packs in, and he got 2 golds out of 50 in Topps Chrome. That guy, lucky. He needs to go buy a lotto ticket.
He doesn't spend money on grading. He doesn't have the heartache, the headache, any of that stuff, and he has all the joy.
Listen,
question:
he does it the right way. He likes what he likes. He buys what he likes. He doesn't get dragged into the mud. He doesn't get involved in the drama. I'm guilty of it myself sometimes, getting involved in the stupidity. The truth of the matter is, if we're going to go positive for a second before you jump into the next thing, is there has to be a way for it all to work. There has to be. This is a hobby built on sports, right? It's built on games. It's built on baseball, which people grow up. It's built on basketball. It's built on heroes. And that's why we like this stuff. We're watching our heroes play and collecting cardboard with pictures of our heroes on it, right? There's got to be a way for all of it to survive, because it's funny. Think about it, and not to go negative, but I think about this all the time. Not anyone specific, but I think it's amazing that now we hear so much about how this should be about collecting and it shouldn't be about investing. Why not? Why can't it be about both? Why isn't there room for both? I'll just keep going back to that, right? From an optimism standpoint, from a positivity standpoint, there's room for all of it, right? Sure, not everybody can bid in a PWCC premier event where every card's going to be $25,000. But there are other auctions out there, right? There's auctions of champions that works in the exact opposite realm. They work in the exact opposite. They want to do lower end, lower price cards. This way it's easily accessible, right? There's a grading company for everybody. You don't want to spend $50. DCI does a great job at 10. SGC does a great job at 30, right? I mean, there's a price point for everybody. I just think, we should spend less time saying you do it right, you do it wrong, and more time with everybody saying, come one, come all. There's a path for each one of you to navigate here,
I don't know why gangster movies are my favorite. Yeah, 100%. I'm just thinking I'm ready with my line. So
I like
American Gangster is one of my favorites.
Gangster. Okay, go for it.
One of my favorites. Do you remember the line when Frank Lucas goes to see Kitano? And he has this line, and Kitano says, monopolies are illegal in this country, Frank, because no one wants to compete with them. No one wants to compete with it. If they let the dairy farmers do that, half of them would go out of business tomorrow. And Frank Lucas says, I'm just trying to make a living, right? And he said, well, that's your right, because it's America, but not at the unreasonable expense of others. That's un-American. Well, and that line always stuck with me.
I mean, even a fool gets to be young once.
Is that from American Gangster too?
Yeah, it's Frank Lucas. Yeah,
dude, I might watch that tonight. It's so good. I still can't believe he shot the guy broad daylight.
I mean, listen, the best line in that, as a podcaster and somebody who goes out there and like speaks, is Richie Roberts, right? The what's his name character, Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe.
Which is number one fear of people isn't dying; it's public speaking. I love it. Hey,
this never felt like public speaking to me, because I control Final Cut.
So we're just talking to each other, right? I mean, that's the deal, right?
Well, public speaking is like when you're in a room and everyone's staring at you. Which I don't think you've ever had an issue with that either, huh?
No, I love it. I think it's the greatest thing on earth. Do you remember the general in the movie, the Chinese general? He had a great line, which is appropriate.
The Chinese general?
Yes. You remember him or no?
Not an American Gangster.
Yes, an American Gangster. Look it up. Go ahead and Google
Vietnamese.
No, he's not Vietnamese.
There's nothing with China in the movie.
Okay. Anyway, so he says, do you like the quote? Okay, so here's what's fun. Best movie quotes, go to RottenTomatoes.com. You know, the movie site? Go to that, Rotten Tomatoes, and type American Gangster quotes. And I'll bet you this quote is on there. And it's appropriate for our show, right? Because for some people, this will be the right way to go. Everybody asked me for a little bit of advice on their cards and stuff like that, right? Did you get it?
American Gangster
quotes. Yep, you got it.
And
pull the page up.
All right, and I should search Chinese guy?
No, they'll just give you quotes. Not Chinese guy, Chinese general. And you're on the page, I'm going to do it with you. So, yes.
There's a lot of quotes, right?
So Dominic Kitano, success, it's got enemies. You can be successful and have enemies, or you can be unsuccessful and have friends. You see that? Right? You scroll down.
Dude, I'm struggling.
There's your 20%. There's your 20%. I can't read the whole Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson. Yes, that's his actual name quote, because there's a lot of F words in that quote. But then right under that, it says Chinese general. And here's the quote.
Quitting when you're ahead is not the same as quitting.
Good quote, right? It's a good quote. Right? Quitting while you're ahead is not the same as quitting. And I like to say that to people as well, right? Think about that from a card perspective on something you're invested in, right? And you can make a little bit of money on it right now. There's nothing wrong with that. Take your profit, move it into something else. You know what I mean? Take your profit, leave that money on the sidelines and see what's going on. There's nothing wrong. You're not quitting when you're quitting ahead. So it's a fun little quote from your movie there, American Gangster. Quitting when you're ahead is not the same as quitting.
Dude.
Fun stuff, right? But here, another thing with American Gangster. What did he sell?
What do you mean? Blue Magic.
Blue Magic, right? Do you think that's all he sold? You know, do you think that was it?
The supplies that you use Blue Magic with.
I mean, he probably sold some weed, sold some paraphernalia, probably sold all kinds of stuff, right? I mean, he's a drug dealer. I mean, and he had drug dealers working.
It's a different supplier.
Right? I mean, but maybe a little opium. You know, he was over in Asia doing all that other fun stuff over there. Right?
Poppy seed bagels for sure. The ones that Darren Ravel talks about for sure. Pop-up bagels.
So, point being, even American Gangster, even Frank Lucas knew you got to diversify. You got to have other products out there. There's got to be more than one way to navigate it if you're a drug addict. You got to give them variety, right? You can't just say, that's it, Blue Magic or nothing. If somebody comes here with money, I'm going to sell them something. I'll sell them some Purple Magic.
Yeah, at a nightclub,
I don't care, right? Yeah, I mean, that's the deal, right? But so point, I guess, is the hobby is the same thing, man. If it's okay with Frank Lucas, there's more than one way to do this stuff, right? You don't have to come up with the money for the Blue Magic. There's other stuff. There's other stuff for you. You know this, man.
Legendary episode.
Sometimes you're doing the Pineapple Express. right? Sometimes you're doing other stuff.
I still can't understand how there's a Chinese general in Vietnam.
God, you are just a pain in the ass.
Well, no, you were right. I'm complimenting your rightness by being so surprised.
I think it's not a character who was in Vietnam. I think the Chinese general is one of the Chinese crime families that he was, dealing with in the movie. No?
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about? I can send you a picture of the actor if you like.
I have it pictured in my head. So you want to go a little more positive, or maybe?
Yeah, man, let's go positive.
So you were opening packs. You opened the OTE Topps Chrome, but you also opened a NFL Phoenix, and there was this gorgeous insert of Jerry Jeudy gold. I don't remember what it's called, but it got me thinking. Panini, whether they'll be extinct or a shell of themselves, or maybe they rise like a phoenix. What, those 90s Jordan inserts, right?
Yep.
Do we see, not now, in 2028, do we see Panini inserts from this decade have some interesting kind of run similar to the Jordan ones? Whether that's with Brady, Kobe, or LeBron? Thoughts?
I think people already think that. I think some have already had their run. Look at Kaboom. Look at Color Blast. These are those cards. They're not numbered. They're the shiny, colorful stuff, right? They're your scoring.
Are those inserts or case hits and inserts the same thing?
So, yes, a case hit, which, by the way, I hate. I hate the term case hit. But a case hit is supposed to be an insert that falls one per case. That's the difference for case hit. Some inserts are rarer than that. Some inserts fall, just like really, really random, 1 in 1,000 packs or whatever it is. Like you see the pack odds used to be there, right? Some things are really rare. What the hobby elitists would tell you is that it's not just 90s inserts. You got to be the right 90s inserts. It's 90s and numbered, which comes at the end of the 90s when they collected, and not the beginning of the 90s when I collected.
So, are hot numbers? Is that an insert? No,
it's an insert, but it's not numbered.
But that's one that's revered.
Not very rare either. It's revered in top 10. It definitely is. Hot gloves were another one. They were basically one a box. I think like 1 in 24 packs of full air. So not exactly the rarest thing on earth, but not numbered.
My House, Splash. I think they were kind of cool.
I mean, they're definitely cool, but a couple differences. Number one, those are everywhere. Two, there are numbered parallels of them, right? So you get like a gold one of those all of a sudden, yeah. But gold anything. You got to remember, the inserts were the cool cards in the 90s because there were no numbered parallels until the end also, right? So the reason that Jordan Scoring Kings was so awesome was because there were Scoring Kings about 1 per box in a Fleer Ultra box, right? So you got the 1 per box, and then there was like 20 of them in the set, approximately. Don't kill me if there's 18 or 30. There's 20, right? There's a Shaq. So in order to get a Jordan, fell 1 in every 20 boxes. You open a box and you got a Jordan, you were thrilled. Same thing, Stadium Club, Beam Team, right? Another great one, right? If you didn't get Shaq or Jordan, yeah, you were happy you got one, right? But it was Patrick Ewing, or it was Dennis Rodman, or it was somebody who wasn't the one you wanted.
Was another one?
Power in the Key was the year after for Ultra. Really nice. That's that's a nice colorful, much shinier. Those were ones that they're very condition sensitive. Why there's not that many 10s, because they chipped a lot of foil, a colorful foil on those. So difficult to get those in 10s. But revered is an interesting thing. Those are revered by me because I collected 92, 93, 94. They're not revered by the people who collected 96, 97, 98 because 1, there's no Kobe, and 2, there's no numbering. Right? So they are not in the PMG realm, even though some of those 90s inserts have less PSA 10s than the total supply of the PMGs. The PMGs blow them out of the water in price. You know what I mean?
I'm curious, guys, in the comments, a lot of you have collected for many years, and we have an amazing audience. Thank you all for listening, for subscribing, for liking, commenting, giving us ideas and all that stuff. What inserts do you think from 2010 to 2020 have a chance? Yeah, we know Kaboom and Color Blast, so we got those. Is there any others? One comes to mind. I don't know if this is an insert again. You remember the USA jersey, USA cards of like Kobe, LeBron, Anthony Davis?
Because that's actually numbered. Those are like numbered cards that are part of the set. So it's
Not
like
an insert though, right? It's a
I
subset.
think some years it might be, but like, you know, let's just say the set is from 100 to 150, and cards 120 to 150 are USA cards. That's a subset in the set. That's the difference between inserts are usually numbered their own number. Like, you know, insert, you know, whatever, wave, W1 through W23 or whatever it is. It's got a different thing. Downtown, that's a cool one that's a little under the radar people like because they're cool looking.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Plus, if you're talking basketball, those are cards that make sense because this has been like the decade of the three-pointer. So an insert called Downtown will have an additional kind of meaning to it, right? With Steph Curry being the first person to ever shoot 500 three-pointers in the playoffs. Downtown might be one that has a little bit of a, you know, like a following to it.
Trae Young, 2028, is out of the league because we realized he wasn't the next Steph Curry, but there's still the memes of the world. They're like, they're collecting his Downtown. Dude, Trae's going to be such a nostalgic buy. Same with Ja.
I mean,
we're going to forget about them in 5, 10
years.
Hilarious.
What's Trae's contract situation?
Wajon, you know,
I don't know. You know,
Trae's making $44 million a year.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's at the end of his contract, and you know they renewed him. I don't know if he's got a couple years left. But I mean, like, think of it this way. I guess why I asked that, I don't really care. But let's say a situation.
Great question.
arises,
He's not making a ton of money by today's.
Well, because
standard.
he's a 2018 guy. He's still, you know, towards the beginning. You know, he's still like, you know, Luka and the whole 9 yards.
He's a restricted free agent for 2022. He was making $8 million this year.
So, but let's just say that he doesn't want to re-sign with the Hawks, right? And maybe they trade him or something like that. Like, imagine adding a Trae to the Nuggets.
That would be an awesome fit. That would be a good fit.
You know what I mean? And maybe they trade back one or two of their pieces. Maybe they get rid of Jamal Murray or something like that. Because now you don't need him to pass the ball because Joker is basically the point guard on the team. And people are doubling Joker, and the spacing is done right where Trae can just shoot his ridiculous shots. And now you might have some
That's an interesting. The two that came to my mind, but I think it's the same criteria, was Lakers with LeBron or Philly with Embiid.
So Embiid better, Lakers with LeBron. Trae's a number one and a clear-cut number one. And what's funny is I moved him.
You don't think Jokic is the number one?
Not hobby-wise. I love Joker. I do. And who is it? Bryce? Right? I think B. Daly, or I think they're they go out there and red zone. They love Joker and they go out and defend him. But there's like one Joker defender for every 10,000 LeBrons, right? If Trae came there, Joker's the better player. Joker's the 2-time MVP. I guarantee you that there will be 10 times as many Trae jerseys bought for the Nuggets as there are for Joker jerseys. So even though he's not the best player on the team, he would be thought of as like, that's Trae's championship. No BS. So it's different than having him pair up with the Lakers. Having him go to the Lakers, he's clear-cut LeBron's team. Trae just came over, and if he wins a championship, of course he won one. He went to go play with LeBron.
Really interesting point. I'm watching the Hollywood Lakers, the show on HBO. The dynamic, I mean, obviously dramatized, but like the dynamic between Magic and Kareem was really similar to that. Like Kareem, who's like a little bit of the tougher guy, quiet, but it took Magic to kind of break him open, and Magic was clearly the clear-cut number one guy by the end of that rookie year.
That was old Lion versus young Lion. Remember, Kareem started playing in 69, right? Played with the Bucks in 69, right? So he was in the league 10 years, before Magic came, 11 seasons, and he was the best player in the league, right? He was a stud. He played in college. Who knows how many points he would have put up, by the way. I know LeBron is going to break a record, but I think Kareem played all 4 years of college at UCLA, right? So he, this is not somebody who jumped straight from high school like Moses Malone or Kevin Garnett. This is somebody who is the all-time champ.
One of the guys on the Lakers, I learned, he sued and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, like Haywood or something. It went all the way to the Supreme Court because they wouldn't let him play in the NBA. There was still a play in the NBA in college for 2 years before you could go to the pros. You couldn't even just jump to the pros.
There was a running back for, I believe it was Ohio State, that also sued after playing 1 year of college.
Maurice
football.
Claret. Maurice Claret.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. So same deal. It's just one of those things. And now when you look at like this NIL shit, it's almost a joke. I mean, you can basically bribe college athletes, to go play in school and say, "Oh, I got your name, image, and likeness deal. Here's $5 million." I read an article. Arch Manning's name, image, and likeness value is like 3-point-something million per year, and I think that's low. Think about that for a second. Imagine like Johnny Manziel, like what his value would have been.
Would have been
college.
insane.
And he sucked.
Yeah.
Like Arch Manning can go out right now. He could
Reggie
probably
Bush.
sign himself $10 million worth of deals this year. He's in high school, right? He can go make $100 million before even getting to the NFL and then not play. I made $100 million. Like, I don't even have to go out there and get my head beat in.
I still think the USC Texas game with like Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Vince Young was the greatest game I've ever seen in my entire life.
You got to watch the Mike Rozier Orange Bowl then.
With
we talked about it when we interviewed Irving Fryer.
With Bosworth.
No, that's Oklahoma. It was
the U.
It was against the U, yeah. It was against the U. But yeah, man, I mean, listen, it's Nebraska. Nebraska against Miami was the one I'm talking about. Like go for 2 at the end kind of thing. Like go for 2 to win instead of going for 1 to tie. Like a real nice, oh my God, ending. So I won't spoil it. Go ahead.
Boise, Oklahoma. That's what reminds me. That reminds me of that game when they did like the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, I remember that. Who was the Boise quarterback on the Smurf turf? I forget his name.
Something? I don't know. Kellen Moore for some reason will come to mind. I don't think that's accurate.
Might be.
Dude, now we're just geeking over. Maybe we'll have the sports show and just go like sports history. Dude, sports history is one of I love history. I love sport. I love sports history.
But we went off on a little bit of a tangent. But the point is, look, we get nostalgic about games and about players, and we can sit here and probably talk for another hour about the different sports and different stuff. It's what makes cards awesome.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, who the hell's getting nostalgic about Netflix stock? Nobody. You know what I mean? But you can get nostalgic about the cards we collect and the players who we rooted for, the players we rooted against.
If there was an NFT of the meeting when Reid Hoffman pitched Blockbuster and they said no, that would be cool. Like a Top Shot moment of them, a Blockbuster saying no.
Yeah, but I don't know whether or not it's something you want to invest in. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
Unless you had rights to it or something like that. I think the NFT space is going to evolve. I've been kind of, at the. You say I'm good at predicting stuff. You know my moves in the NFT space. I'm now in the play to earn space. I think that's where we're evolving.
Where you get paid dividends, like Scux.
Pretty much.
You get dropped dividends. So even if your thing is flat or even goes down, you're still getting dropped value.
Yep.
And you believe in the mission long term. It's brilliant. You're the Warren Buffett of NFTs.
I do my best.
I'm Charlie Munger. I won't even buy all of the world's Bitcoin for $25. And don't think about marrying into my family.
Love and life, my friend. Love and life. What time is it? That's what I want to know.
Luca Nation, we love you. We really do try to bring you guys value. I mean, I don't think anyone brings you the range of topics where they're not about us flaunting our collection or what we have or the money we make or not. It's really about how can we show up here for an hour or 5 minutes and the person listening feels like it's an hour well spent. I think this is one of our better episodes.
Love you, Luca Nation.
So thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo Mai. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month, and many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. As people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days. have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, simple as that, and the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is, 9170 Glades Road, number 135 is the P.O. Box in Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. 9170 Glades Road, number 135, Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com, or my cell phone number, 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luca Nation.